Welcome to the Wealthy Actor Podcast. I'm Valerie Hubbard, an industry veteran with 25 years dedicated to helping actors navigate the business side of their craft.
And I'm James Hallett, a fellow lifelong actor and coach, joining Valerie on this journey.
Here on The Wealthy Actor, we're diving deep into the stories and insights of actors from all walks of life.
We'll be unraveling the threads of success, failures, and everything in between.
So if you're ready to embark on a journey beyond the footlights, join us as we sit down with fascinating actors, industry experts, and thought leaders to uncover the secrets of becoming a truly wealthy actor. I'm Valerie Hubbard.
And I'm James Hallett.
And this is the Wealthy Actor Podcast, where the art of acting meets the business of building a truly prosperous life in the spotlight. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Wealthy Actor Podcast. My name is Valerie Hubbard, and I'm joined by my co-host.
Hi, I'm James Hallett. Happy to be here today with our special guest.
Yes, Iliana Guibert. Let's talk about her. So, Iliana, we're going to introduce you today. We have a real live wealthy actor here today that can talk to us just not only about acting, but about money, right? That's her industry. So it's exciting. I'm excited. So here we go. Ms. Iliana Guibert was laid off from her corporate job about 10 years ago, and she reinvented herself in the entertainment industry and has not looked back. Her recent performances include 26 Miles at Gulf Shore Playhouse, Anna in the Tropics, I love that play, at Bay Street Theater, currently streaming action film 6 Hours Away, and James Patterson Audible with Sarah Paulson, 7 Hours to Die. How exciting is that? Some of her small screen appearances include Law and Order SVU, Organized Crime, City on a Hill, Quantico, and Blue Bloods. And when she's not acting or producing, she sits on the board of a charitable organizations dedicated to supporting chronic and terminally ill children and youth in the arts. So there you are. That's our guest for today.
There I am.
And Iliana, you're also a grad of Tisch, School of Arts.
I am. NYU's my alma mater.
That's very cool.
It is. I'm very proud of that.
Yeah. So you have had, I mean, first of all, what an amazing story that you I don't know when you went to school in the midst of this, but you had a corporate job and you were laid off.
Yeah, and it was my career for my whole life. And then about 10 years ago, we had layoffs and I was one of them. And I thought, well, I'm going to look at this as a blessing in disguise. And I love the way my daughter phrased it back then. She's like, Mom, you're just going to take these lemons and you're going to make a great tasting lemonade out of these rotten lemons you got. And that's exactly what I've tried to do. And I hold steadfast on that attitude of, these were the cards I was dealt, and now how do I play this hand? And, and I can't complain. I mean, I could, but I'm not going to. That I've really played the hand well. I've done my best at just, learning. You just keep learning and you keep expanding yourself and you keep trying new things and collaborate with people and just continue to be a sponge, because it's an ever-changing industry, and it's not just our industry. The world changes because of technology, because of new things that are introduced, because this goes out and the new thing comes in, and you better be flexible and you better know how to move and shift. And so that's what I've been doing.
So I'd love to, if I can, I'd love to follow up that question with, can you talk about this? So where in your journey was study at NYU, and then and how did that fit in with a corporate job?
Okay.
And how did you where how did this journey go? And
So I always wanted to act ever since I was a little girl, but I didn't know how to go about it, what to do. I came from a family of immigrants. I'm first generation. And, the thought was, oh, you're going to be a teacher, you're going to be a nurse, or, ooh, maybe she could be a lawyer, maybe she'll be, a newscaster or something. So I went to school and journalism was my major, but I was still so fascinated with the arts that I said, I'm going to double major. And that's where Tisch comes in. So I was at Tisch, so I was an acting major, but I double majored in journalism. And when I got out of school, I thought, all right, well, I can't just sit here waiting for the phone to ring and waiting for this thing called auditions to happen, especially because they weren't. And so I said, I've got to get a job. And I got a job as a temp in the garment center, working for this little company. They were a private label, and I was only there temp as a receptionist, but they kept losing their receptionist and kept calling me back and calling me back. And then finally, I just started working for them full time. But I kept saying, but I want to be an actor, so I need to leave if I have an audition. And they're like, oh, yeah, we'll let you do that. Well, the job was so busy and nobody ever wanted to cover that switchboard that, long story short, I never really got out of there until finally one day I said, I can't do this anymore because I can't really pursue this career while I have this receptionist job. So I left that job and again, that was right out of college. Then I transitioned to this other work. One of my reps, the sales reps in that receptionist job, referred me to this company that was starting out in the US. They were huge in Europe, but they were starting out here in the US, and they were manufacturers of high-end office furniture. And she said, oh, go interview because they have a lot of flexibility. And sure enough, that's what it was. They said, yeah, they're going to be days we're going to send you home because we don't have anything for you to do. And I said, perfect, that's exactly what I need because I need that flexibility. Well, that never really happened. They just kept giving me more responsibilities. And before you know it, I am running the entire East Coast as a sales manager, something I never in my wildest dreams thought I would be doing. I never wanted to sell. I hate sales. I hate pressuring people into buying anything or consulting them into buying anything. But for some reason, I was really good at it. And I think it came from that, from not really pushing to sell them, but to educate them as to what we offered. And if my product wasn't solving their issue or their problem, I knew where to send them. I can't tell you how many times I sent them to my competition, whether it was Herman Miller or Knoll or Steelcase. These were the monster competitors. And I would send them there because I knew I didn't have the right product for them. But that made my approach very different, and it got noticed by the people in my company and by my clients. And I just had such a wonderful career until we had layoffs. And then I thought, okay, well, I can either go work for one of my competitors, like Herman Miller, go call them and say, hey, do you have something for me? Or I can try something else. And I thought, well, what could I do? As a kid, I always wanted to be in advertising. As a kid, I used to watch the show Bewitched, and everybody wanted to be Samantha or Tabitha. Not me. I wanted to be Darren Stevens because I wanted to sell the ads. I wanted to come up with the jingles. And so I thought, I wonder, should I go into advertising? And then I thought, wait, what about this whole acting thing that I always loved as a kid? So I said, I'm going to try this out. So I started taking class. I started networking. I started, learning the ropes. And the big benefit is that we have this thing called Google, and you just Google anything. And so what's the difference between an agent and a manager? What's the difference between a casting director and a producer, or an executive producer and a regular producer? All the answers are there. So it's like a built-in mentor right on your computer. And so I started doing that. And again, networking, going to film festivals, going to theater, and just building a wonderful network of people, of collaborators, and then starting to audition. And you audition and you audition and nothing. And then boom, you get a little something. And then you get another little something and another little something. And all of a sudden the agent starts to say, wait, she's getting callbacks. She's booking things. Let's sign her. So you get signed. Then the same thing happens, in another sector, more in the theater world, where all of a sudden you start booking things, or that people start saying, hey, we want to see her for this role. And you start to get noticed. But it doesn't mean that you stop working, because at the end of the day, your representation, whether that's your agent, your manager, your publicist, they're there to help you, but they have other clients. You have to be your own, your own advocate, because you're getting 100% of everything. They're just getting a little portion of you. It's your career. So you have to get out there and you have to pound the pavement and make the connections and get yourself seen and known by the people that you want to work with or that you think you should be working with. That was kind of a long
Yep.
answer to your
It was a
question.
great
No,
answer.
that was a great answer.
It was so awesome. I mean, I think that, it's really clear that you applied what you knew about business to pursuing your acting business. And you're a perfect example of a full-time actor getting full-time results. Like, right? Someone that goes, okay, this is my job. What do I need to do?
And I'm very goal oriented. That works for me. And what I
Yeah.
say to people is you have to do what works for you, but you have to try different things. And if something that you thought was going to work isn't working, pivot and try a different approach, try something else. But you have to uncover many stones and figure out what works for you. For me, it's goal setting. So if my big goal is X, I have to figure out, okay, so what are the sub goals that help me to get to that main goal? Whether that's, I want to write my own solo play, I want to be a guest star on a show, I want to be a recurring, I want to do a play at XYZ theater, or I want to do XYZ play, or I want to collaborate with so-and-so. So, okay, what are the steps that you have to do? It's kind of like if you wanted to lose weight. Well, if you wanted to lose weight, you have to look at, okay, you have to look at your diet, you have to look at what you're doing physically. There's a whole list of things that are going to get you to that goal. And it's the same thing in this industry. It's no different than any other industry. You just have to put your head together and figure out what is it for you. And the thing that's challenging in our industry is that we're so low. Versus, when I worked, I had 3 assistants, I had, a marketing manager, you have a whole resource because it's an entire company. When you're an actor, you're the company, you're all you've got. So you have to wear all those hats. And again, having a manager and an agent and a publicist, yes, that's part of your team, but it's not the nitty gritty, because you have to be able to give them the resources so that they can sell you.
Yes.
And so that's on you.
Great. Could you talk about you were talking about steps that we need to take. So can you just give me some examples of that? Like maybe some steps you took to get cast in these plays that are higher level than what you were doing before?
Yeah, so some of it came from doing what you think is like, oh, well, this little theater, but that little theater that nobody knows, that's a feather in your cap. Not only does it help your confidence, which, believe it or not, confidence is a huge, huge factor in this, because you walk in confident and they're like, well, who's that? They don't know who you are, but they know that a presence just walked in the room. So that's huge. So doing work at other levels, at lower levels, will get you to that higher level. And then just being really good when you do go into those auditions and giving them something to really think about. Even if you're so far off, it doesn't matter. The point is you went in and you delivered a really great audition and they had to say no to you. But your agent realizes, oh, they want to see her again now this year for this other thing, even though they didn't cast her last year. And that speaks volumes. And it happens on television shows all the time. Like I won't say the show, but I just recently, because I don't know if I should or I'm supposed to, so I'm going to just not. But it's a show that everyone knows. It's a network television show. And I think I've had 6 auditions for them in the last few months. So what does that say? Now you could turn around and you could take the attitude of, oh, I've auditioned 6 times, I haven't booked. But I don't look at it that way. I go, I've auditioned 6 times and they're still calling me, which means I am right for that show. It just hasn't been my opportunity yet. Yeah. For every yes, you've got to probably have 50 no's, and that's just the name of the game in our industry because there's so much competition. But I'm getting closer and closer, and maybe it'll be number 7. And every once in a while you do a show and you go audition for the first time and you book it. And that has happened to me with another network show where I went in the very first time. Everybody in New York has been on this show. It's been on the air forever. And I went in for the first time and I said to the casting director, I feel like I'm the only New York actor that's never been on this show. And, he laughed. And I did the audition, walked away, booked it. And now I've actually done it 2 more times. I've done that show. But But yeah, so that's one of the things is you just have to go in prepared because you never know when the opportunity is going to happen. So when you're not working, you're supposed to be working, meaning go read, go, join a little group that's reading sides and just practicing and honing your skill. Listen, if I was a concert pianist, every day I'd be on that piano working. So it's no different for us. We're an artist, and our body is the instrument, whether it's how you move, how you speak, how you learn lines, how you dissect those sides. Sometimes you go in and you may not have a lot of time. They may send you something and it's the next day you have to self-tape. You have to self-tape it for the next day. So guess what? And yeah, we all have jobs and we all have other things and family responsibilities and extracurriculars, and you can't always drop everything to prepare for a self-tape. But if you've honed your skill, they give you those sides and you're like, boom, boom, boom. Okay, this is what I have to do. I'm going to give them these 3 colors. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And you hone that skill. And then now you deliver a great audition. And again, you may not book it, but you've made yourself known to that casting person yet again. And that's what you have to do. That's part of the job. It's not just
I,
booking the job and doing it. It's this whole process is part of our job.
I want to lift up something you said because I think that um, any actor listening in needs to hear this again. You said, for every yes, you have to have 50 no's.
Yeah.
And it's so important because um, we can go into that place of despair with with those 49 with those 49 no's, right? We can go into a place of despair, but but if we understand that this is the nature of the beast, right? That it's about showing up and showing up and showing up and showing up, and also mixed in with that, that in the midst of those 50 no's is the other thing that you were saying about going in and being brought back for a different role, and understanding that's the casting person's. They're searching for the right role for you, right? They're
Yeah.
searching for the perfect fit. And as you said, right, if you keep showing up, it's going to happen. They're going to find that role, and right. Um, so what do you do for yourself to keep in shape as an actor in the process where you're in the 49 roles that you haven't booked. How are you taking care of yourself? How are you practicing your skills? Like what do you do to nourish yourself and keep your
It's
skills and
it's a lot of things. It's not just working on monologues and working on sides. And, I just came back from 10 days at the Hamptons Film Festival because I want to go see independent work and I want to see, what other people are doing. And so it's important to see other work, to go to these festivals. Not only are you going to the festival, you're also networking while you're at that festival. So you're doing 2 things at once. It's your creative side and it's your business side that you're working. So there's that. Work on little projects of your own, whether it's, I want to do a little web series, I want to do these little skits, whatever it is, just anything that gets you. Just like if I was a piano player, I'd say, I'm going to invite a bunch of friends and I'm just going to play for them, because the pressure of playing in front of my friends versus me playing, and I don't play piano, by the way, I'm just using it as an analogy. But I think it's a great analogy because everybody gets it. Like, can you imagine if you went to a concert and this person hasn't played for a year or 6 months? No, they're playing every day because they have to keep they have to keep that instrument, and not just the piano, but the person playing it so in tune that they can do this with their eyes closed. And that's where we have to get as actors or producers or directors, that we can do our job with our eyes closed. And that if somebody throws us 7 curveballs, we can dodge the curveball and still hit a home run, or at least get to first base.
yeah, that's great.
Awesome. Awesome. I love going to film festivals, and it's such a great way of, because I think as humans, we really crave now the one-on-one and the togetherness, because that was taken away from us. And so, like,
Yeah.
going to festivals is such a great thing for actors to do. I'm going to a festival next week, right? And it's like, you go and you're involved in with other artists that are there either telling their story, directing, producing, writing, acting in their stories. And so it's always very joyful to me. A film festival is a joyful environment, and there's a
I
lot
feel
to learn.
Yeah, and I feel like it gives me a little reboot, and it gives
Yeah.
me like it just kind of gives me that shot of vitamin B, because you see something, you're like, "Oh my God, that was incredible." There was one film we watched and they did a Q&A afterwards, and their budget was $2 million, which, I'm not saying $2 million is not a lot of money, it is, but not for a film. I mean, $2 million for a feature film, and it was
Mhm.
really well done. And you say, "Oh, look at what they did," and so that inspires you. So you go there for inspiration. You go there to be motivated. You go there to reboot, to get re-energized, to network, and to watch things that you might watch something that gives you your next idea. Or you
Right.
might meet somebody that you say, "You know what, I would love to collaborate with this person. Let me be your PA on your next thing, or let me be a producer with you on your next short film or on your next feature. This is what I can bring to the table. I'm willing to learn, and this is what I can bring." And that's what you have to do. That's again part of the job. I'm going to say that a lot. It's part of the job.
No, it's great. It's great. It's good. Yeah, and you've been willing to do a lot of like jobs like, collecting tickets or cleaning up the theater or like sort of more down in the dirt jobs, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, that's one of the things too that I learned, and I've shared this with people a lot, is that when I was working in that job as a receptionist and when I was working in that other industry, we all have to do other jobs, let's face it. It's only the movie stars, which is the one percenters of our industry, get to only do this for a living. The
Yeah.
rest of us have to do something else to make money. So one thing I learned, a valuable lesson, was that whatever you're doing, try to make it within your industry. Because if I had been a receptionist, maybe at a law firm that was an entertainment law firm, I would have been at least surrounded by people that are talking about my industry, and I would have learned through that. So if you can help it, I highly suggest or recommend that if you have to have a survival job, that it be involved in something within your business. Maybe you're working for a production company as a receptionist, or you're, the bookkeeper, or whatever it is that you're doing, whatever that survival job is, try to make it something within the entertainment industry so that you can network and you can have people around you that are talking, breathing, and smelling that work and that industry.
Yeah. You know what I'm really hearing from you, and a lot, what my reflection is, it's really about, if you want to be in an industry, get inside of it and bathe in it. Like,
Yeah, get
surround
immersed in it.
yourself with
Right.
immersed in it. Yeah.
Yeah, get immersed in it. Go see theater. And I mean, if you don't want to do theater, then that's fine. Then, then get involved in, if it's radio, then then get immersed in that. If it's film and television, then get immersed in that and go to the festivals and go to, when they're doing talks. The talks are great too. Like when I was at the Hamptons Film Festival, I went to one of the talks and it was great. It was 4 people on the panel. It was 3 different films. So two of the panelists were part of one film. All 3 are indie films. All 3 got distribution. And it was great listening to how they got there, how they got the distribution, how they made their film, and they all had a different story of how they did it. One, it took her 7 years. Another one, it was kind of very fast paced. And they did, it's funny, they were so adorable. They said, "Okay, what we're going to tell you is not what we recommend, but it's what we did. We did exactly what you're not supposed to do. We maxed out our credit cards. We did this, we did that, everything you're not supposed to do, but it worked for them." And, and that was just one part of the story. But it was great. And then afterwards, you had the opportunity to go and chat with them for a few minutes. And though that's invaluable, You don't get that reading a book. You don't get that sitting home watching, an interview on YouTube. And there's nothing wrong with those things. But when you're there and you get to you get to actually have conversations, live conversations with these creators, with these filmmakers, it's wonderful. It reboots you, it energizes you, and you never know. You may end up collaborating with them a year from now, 7 years from now.
Yes. So true. I mean, I think like if the one place that I feel like I kind of have dropped the ball always is in following up. That's something
That's
that,
hard, but
yeah,
yeah.
that's really hard.
It is because and sometimes because I'm victim of this too, is that sometimes you feel like, oh, but so much time has passed, you know. And sometimes, you know, then maybe that's what you need to say in your communication to them. I am so sorry. So where has the time gone? 5 years have gone by and we have not connected. I would love to get together with you for a coffee, or, you know, if you want to do just a little Zoom, you know, 30-minute Zoom chat. Whatever you're sending though, make it short and sweet, and if there's something that you can congratulate them on so that it's not just about you, and it needs to be a genuine congratulations. Don't say you're congratulating them about something that you know nothing about. If I went to the festival and I saw their film, then, oh my God, I watched your film and the audience, the reaction and the this and the that, or I love when this happened in the way you know, or I love that casting choice that your team made. But, you know, really engage in what their work is. Even if you never
Yeah.
get anything back, it doesn't matter. The point is you're making a connection, you're trying to make a connection.
Yes. Yes.
It's not
Good.
always going to work because listen, just like with our friends, just with our, you know, romantic situations, just because somebody is right on paper and you're like, oh my God, this is a director I should be working with. But there may not be, you know, it could be 10 years before he or she has the project that you're right for. And maybe when the project comes, you're not available or you don't know about it. You never found out about it because your agent didn't know or you didn't get submitted or whatever. So you just keep pounding and you keep pounding.
Are you doing producing work?
I'm trying because I'm very intrigued by the whole world of producing, and I've been told by so many people, you think like a producer, because I'll be watching something, I'm saying, well, I don't understand what, you know, well, why don't you do this or why don't you do that? That would save you so much money. And people laugh. They're like, you know, you think like a producer, you should be producing. So I have produced a few things. I've produced a few short films. I have one actually right now that I co-produce that's out on the film festival circuit. That's a short film and it's a drama. And I love it. I really like it a lot. I think part of why I love it so much, because my personality is one that, you know, I get on set and they do my makeup, they do my hair. So what's that, an hour? Then I sit in a trailer for another 2 hours. Then I get on set. We do a rehearsal, which by the way is not for me, it's for camera or the director. And then we shoot it and maybe we do 2 takes and then I'm done and they send me home. Well, I walk away, I'm starving. I want to hang out. I want to be there. And when you're a producer, you get to be there before, during, and after. And I love that because it means that I get to be busy the whole time. You know, so right now I'm doing some research on cinematographers because I'm working on a couple of things and I'm thinking, all right, let me start putting my thinking cap on. We're in development, but let me start putting my thinking cap on. And I made a list of 5 DPs that could work for one project, and then 2 of those DPs in that list of, actually it's a list of 7, but 2 of those that are on there are really a great fit for the short film, this other project that I'm going to be working on. So I love that because I like being busy and I love having tasks and I love having to problem solve and I love having a team to work with and to motivate. And when you look in the definition, that's kind of what a producer does. So I think I should be doing more producing.
I agree. You're definitely a
Yes.
leader for sure. For sure.
But that doesn't mean that I don't love my acting. Oh, I adore it. I adore it. And it's, I mean, they're all different. You know, when you're doing something, whether it's an audible, like I just did for the James Patterson book, 7 Hours to Die, or whether it's for television, which is so fast paced, or a film. And then there's theater. Oh, theater. That feeds the soul like nothing else. I mean, everything else is magical when you see it all come together, but there's something about theater. There's so much homework to be done before you get to rehearsal. I'm going to do something in December, and we start rehearsals November 4th. And I'm already sitting there thinking about my character and thinking about her
Yeah.
motivation and different things and her relationship to the people in the story. And, you know, it's just, this is the homework you have to do. And then you get to rehearsal and there's more homework and there's going to be table work. And then you get up on your feet and you start, there's so many facets to it. It's funny because people in my corporate life are always mesmerized. They're like, how do you memorize all those lines? And I'm like, sweetheart, the memorization, that's the easy part. Getting the job for me right now, that is the hardest part of my work, is getting the job. And not necessarily booking it, but finding the opportunities. That
Yeah.
for me is one of the hardest things. It's not even booking it. It's really just uncovering the opportunities. So that's part of networking. That's part of being, in the right circles, because all of a sudden you find out that, XYZ person is going to be writing a script, and then you're really, well, what's it about? And all of a sudden they've written a part for you. And maybe you do get to play it, maybe you don't, but those are the things that you have to be doing.
Yeah.
It's almost like all these people that you're connecting with are your foot soldiers for this
It-
army that you have to build in order to succeed. And it's an army.
so
It
one of
is.
the things one of the things that I love is that you haven't mentioned social media once. And I think that we're in a time where so many people are relying so heavily on social media. And what you've been talking about is not social media, but rather getting into spaces where you are connecting with people. So you're
Yeah.
going to, festivals, you're meeting people, you're out there, you're out there face to face, which is, it's so important. And it also, it ultimately saves time.
It does. And I'm not discounting social media. I'm glad that you brought it up because it is an important part of our careers. Unfortunately, we do have to work that angle as well. You have to have a presence. There are projects where they're going to ask. They want your handle because they want to see what you post. They want to see how many followers you have. I mean, that's not usually things like, a theater's not asking for that. But if I do a print job, they might ask for it. Certain types of work might ask for it. So it's important to have, and you never know. You might get a contract that says that it's in the contract that you need to post about this project. And they give you the media toolkit that they want you to use, and you have to post about the project. But they want to know that you've got a following, that you don't have, seven family members are your followers. They want to know that you have a following because they're going to ask you in their contract that you need to engage.
Hmm. So,
So it is important. It is important, but it's not at all at the top of my list. I have yet to be cast from a post. I don't think casting directors are necessarily looking on social media to see, who they're going to use. I do have a friend, somebody who I worked with, who played my daughter in something, and somebody reached out to her through social media
hmm.
for an upcoming show that they're working on. So it does happen. It's not the norm, but it does happen. So that's why you have to cover all your bases.
There's a you have a quality of, so I can hear how you would have been a fantastic manager of a team of salespeople. And
Thank you.
um and one of the things that one of the questions that comes to my mind, having said that, is, like, are you finding places to engage with young actors? Like,
It's funny that you say that because I have had people tell me, oh, or they meet me at an event, and they're like, my nephew is looking to break in, and I say, yeah, here's my number, have them call me, and I'll sit there for an hour, 2 hours, and I tell them, listen, call me if you have any questions. These are, because the things that I'm giving you, it's not that it's a shortcut, but it's a time saver. And it's like, okay, here are the places where you can find work. Here are the things that you should be doing. Definitely go to those universities and do the projects with the university. Listen, I just did something for NYU. I did it for 2 reasons, 3 reasons actually. So it was a project that was a pilot for a dark comedy. And there was no pay. This is a deferred situation. But I did it because I read the script and I loved the script. I said, oh my God, this writer is so wickedly talented. This is absolutely delicious. And the role was something that I normally, like I don't get to play all of these different, tap into these different valves that this character has. So that was very appealing to me. And it was NYU, which is my alma mater. So I want to give back and do something to help. And so why not? And I loved it. I loved working on this. And I've been such a cheerleader for them. And I've, sent them, messages about, hey, there's this film festival, use my name when you submit for it. Hey, there's this other thing. Let me submit it for you because there might be a better chance if I'm the one submitting it. And it's wonderful. So yeah, so that would be an example of helping young people. And then I sit on the board of Opening Act, which is an organization in New York City that brings free year-round after-school theater programs to New York's most under-resourced schools. And the same thing with that. You try to be a mentor to those students. And, some of them want to be actors, some of them want to be writers, some of them want to produce or direct. Some don't want to be in the industry at all, but they're learning great skills to take away in whatever field, whether it's because they want to be a baker, they want to be a fashion designer, they want to be whatever it is. These are just tools that help you grow as a person. And it's done through theater games.
That's awesome. That's so awesome.
And corporations do it, because I haven't done any recently, but I do a lot of that too, where we do a lot of role play. And part of why I'm a good fit for that is because I have not only the acting background, the creative background, but because I've been a salesperson and I've been a manager of salespeople. So when these companies are doing their retreats, and then at the end of the retreat, they want to do role play with the people that they're training, whether they're reps or they're training people to be, it could be anything. It would be pharmaceutical reps. It could be, food and beverage industry. It could be medical situations. You come in as the actor and you role play with them, whatever that difficult situation is that they had to learn about during these 4 days. Now you get to go in there and give them that difficult situation.
That's awesome.
And it's invaluable. I mean, and people in corporate don't realize sometimes how valuable it is when your company's able to do something like that for you, because they're letting you make the mistake with somebody like me. So you have a safety net. And sometimes they know I'm an actor when I do these things, and sometimes they don't. So sometimes after the session is over, I get to give them feedback of what I thought, how they did. And not critical feedback, but feedback that's like, listen, next time it might be good if you did blah, 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 or I wish I had seen you ask me this, or it would have been great if you had asked me that, or you mentioned that your company is doing X, Y, Z, in their factories to make it a clean factory. That speaks volumes about what your company is doing to do the right thing or to give back. So it's about helping educate them.
It's great. It's great. Awesome. Awesome. Do we have any questions? If you have questions, please put them in the Q&A. I think James already said that. Is that correct, James?
Yep, I did.
Do we have any questions?
No, we have a quiet audience.
Hello, quiet audience. Ask some questions. This is your opportunity live to ask her anything you want to know. I mean, I think what you're saying is so helpful. Because I think like a lot of times I discover that people that I'm talking to are in what they're going to do, but it's always like kicking the can forward. And so can you talk a little bit about that? Like, because, you're very much like, you need to do what you need to do right now. Like, you have that energy. So have you ever suffered from sort of kicking the can forward and talking about something you want to do but not doing it? What's that like?
Yeah, there's one I can talk about right now it's happening. And it's a one-woman play that I have been wanting to write. I have started writing it finally, but it took me a long time. It's my story, and it's a very hard story to tell. For those who don't know, I lost my husband on 9/11, and so it's not just about that. It's a story of love, of survival, of loss, of triumph. And there's just so many facets to that story that people don't know because it's a very different kind of death. You know, we all are going to lose someone, whether it's to cancer, whether it's to a heart attack, a car accident. But it doesn't happen every day that you lose somebody in a very, very public way and something that gets celebrated every year on 9/11. So there's a lot to talk about. There's a lot to talk about how people responded, how people continue to respond, the lessons learned from that type of an event, which was the only event we've ever had in our country of that magnitude or in that way. So that's one where I've kicked the can. And I have a great mentor, by the way. Chaz Palminteri is my mentor on this. He's the one that actually pushed me to do this. He's one of a few people. I also have a very dear friend who's an actor, Adrian Martinez, who for years was saying, this story, how are you not telling this story? You have to do this as a one-woman play or something. And I was just like hemming and hawing. I was like, I don't know. I don't know that I really want to make, and it's not about making it public because I've done a lot of interviews, you know, about that day and about surviving all of that. But now to make it a theatrical thing just felt something about it didn't feel right. And then, so I really just delayed and delayed. But Chaz Palminteri really helped me through that, you know, given that, you know, his Bronx Tale is his story. He was that little boy in the Bronx Tale who witnessed a man getting killed over a parking spot. That was him. And then he later went on to create a one-man show about it. Then later it became a movie. That De Niro directed and starred in with him. Then it went on to be a Broadway musical. Now that one man show of his actually got recorded, and it premiered at the Tribeca Film Festival, which of course I was there for the premiere of that. And it's just, and so that is an example of one that I've been kicking the can about, and mostly for personal reasons because it's so grueling. Like I started writing in late August. I was writing, and I was like, you know, I had this thing, I don't want to call it writer's block. It was almost like I had so much information that I didn't know where to start or what to do. And then I realized, you know what? Instead of trying to put this in the order in which it's going to be told, let me just get these index cards. I bought these big index cards and I just started writing the titles of the different sections of things that I want to talk about. So I have right now about 21, 25 sections. And then it's, all right, whether it's today, tomorrow, this afternoon, squeeze in time to just write a little bit about that one and then come back and finish it. And because it's such an emotional topic, it is hard to write about. This is not just fiction, this is my life, and it brings up a lot of things. And so it is hard to write about. But I do feel like it's time, and I do feel ready. And, you know, some people ask, well, why would you want to do that? And like, even with the interviews, why do you, you know, when they call you and they want to interview you, why do you keep saying yes? I say yes because it is cathartic, it is therapeutic for me to be able to share this. And the other one is because if everybody says, no, we're not going to do it, then nobody's ever going to know what happened. Nobody's ever going to hear the stories. And it's important to hear the stories. And it's not, yeah, everybody knows what happened that day, but it's the things that happen behind the scenes are the things that people don't know. And that's, as storytellers, that's our job, is to be able to share those things and bring humor to it. And yes, people are going to cry, people are going to laugh, people are going to be angry, people are going to be heartbroken. But isn't that what we go to entertainment for, to theater, and to why we watch films? We know it's not real and we're crying. We know it's not real and we're laughing. Well, this one happens to be real, but you're going to laugh and you're going to cry. So yes, that's an example of one that I've been kicking the can with.
Well, that is a perfectly understandable kicking of the can. Like that's like
Others, yeah,
that's like,
there
oh
are
yeah,
others.
oh yeah, I'm gonna go do this little play here and then I'll figure that out later. And I also love the index card thing because you know that just it's like a puzzle, right? Rather than trying to create it, because who knows how the puzzle is going to be delivered. I mean, you could have aspects of film in it When I did my one
Right.
woman show, like I had film in it, I had, you know, so I think that there's a lot of things because you have been interviewed a lot, and now that you have said what you said, it was like, you know, I mean, I was like after I got to know you and was working with you, and then I would turn on and there would be like you talking about your husband, and like I was like, oh my God, that's my client, you know, and we'd seen all that stuff from year to year, but until we know someone, it's like different, and it's received differently on this end too, because you know, I had my ideas and then I met you, right? And so it's a whole nother layer.
Yeah.
Um, and I do think it's an important story for you to tell. I mean, you know, I think I'm excited for when that happens. I'll be there for sure.
Thank
So,
you.
yeah, I'm excited
And
to see what happens with it. So, yes, James, did you have?
well, yeah, I just want to say that I love the idea of saying okay, there's an obstacle. So how can I do this differently, right? How can I do this in a different way so that I'm not going straight into the wall of my own, um, like whatever it is that's holding me back from moving forward. Instead of trying to ram through that wall, asking the question, how can I do this in a different way? So the large box of index cards and beginning to write down the titles is a way of sort of saying, okay, I'm gonna approach this differently and see what comes of that movement, which I think is really wonderful.
Yeah, and it's
Um,
also saying, well, why is that wall up? What is that wall?
mm,
So is it fear of oh my God, this could really be something, and I'm afraid of that? Because sometimes we are afraid of a huge success, or afraid that this thing that you think is that you know is so important to you personally ends up being a flop, that nobody comes to see it. So there you have to sit there and you have to say to yourself, okay, so what is it that I'm so afraid of? Is it the emotional part? Yes, but what else is there? Because usually there's a bunch of things. It's usually not just one thing that's keeping you from doing it. So another kick the can is that I wanted to work on just my own little project, whatever that was. Not this one woman show, but just something with that I collaborate with other people. And some of what was holding me back was financial, because you sit there and it's like, oh my God, but how are we going to do this? How are you going to? And then finally you say, okay, well, you know what? But you're sitting there, how are you going to do this? Well, why don't you just figure out? Okay, so how are you going to do it? So, okay, so why don't you find a location that you don't have to pay for? Make it something that you have access to. Oh, I have access to my own house, or I have access to so and so's apartment. I have access to this really cool car, so maybe we can incorporate something in the story about this cool car. So think about the resources that you have, and then start working with those resources, and you'll see that all of a sudden all these walls and all these shields and obstacles will start coming down when you start looking at what your resources are. We have so many resources that we don't realize that we can tap into. So tomorrow, not tomorrow, Friday, I'm going to see a friend's office because I'm going to work on this web series. It's a 6-episode web series. And in it, we have an office scene. And I have this nice friend who has an office in Hackensack, New Jersey, right across the bridge, and always said, oh, you should come to the office sometimes. If you ever want to use my office for anything, if you want to work here or whatever. And then it dawned on me, you know what? How about, would you be willing to? And that's the other thing, is you can't be afraid to ask.
Yes.
You can't be afraid to ask. It's sort of like when you're trying to raise money for a charity. And one of the lessons I learned is, people give when they're asked, because sometimes they don't think to just do it. So you have to say, yeah, would you be willing to let us use that office? So I'm going to actually do a little location scouting on Friday to go check out the office to see if it's really the right fit. I'll videotape, I'll take some pictures, and then bring it back to the team when we have our next meeting to say, hey, here's an office. And by the way, here are some DPs that I've spoken to in the last week that could be of interest for our project, that are the good fit for our project and fall within our budget.
So there are two questions, and one of them is aligned with this. So Kim asks, "Hi, I like the idea of production. Is there camera equipment that would be great for an independent filmmaker that is starting out? can you start with cameras like a GoPro and a few actors?
I've never used one, but you can start with whatever you have access to, and you play with whatever you have access to, whether it's your phone, whether it's your friend's camera because they're in film school and they've got something that they can borrow from school or that they own. So there is no real answer because it's all with what's within your budget. What do you have access to? And work with what you have and start making something just to get that experience of, oh, okay, so this is what I have to do with this type of equipment. This is like, with us, with this little web series that we're doing, the two DPs that I've spoken to thus far, they have very different equipment. So I have to do some research and figure out, okay, so what's the look of the equipment that they have? And that's when you take a look at their reels and you say, okay, was that shot on that? Was that shot on that? Oh, that fits the look of what I want to create. But sometimes we have to work in a different way, and this is what I have, so what can I create with what I have? Like me with the locations, saying, okay, instead of, oh, how am I going to do this? We don't have the money to do this. No, well, how can we do it given the resources that we have? So if I have a GoPro, then I'm going to figure out what are kinds of things that you shoot with a GoPro, and then maybe that's what I need to make this little project about. And work around that, work around what equipment I'm using or that I have access to. I hope that answered your question.
It was great.
That was great. Another question came in. Mike says, I love your comment about working in the business that you're going after specifically as your way to earn a living as an actor. I have found that UGC, which is user-generated content, has become that place for me, as it always allows me to play just as if I was acting for someone else. Does that fit into the space that, from your standpoint?
Absolutely, Mike. That's a new space, actually. I haven't tapped into that or know a lot about it, but it's definitely a newer space. And listen, this is one of the things that I talked about in the beginning when I said, things change and you have to learn to adapt. For years, and this is probably, before most of your time because I'm much older than you guys, but there were token booth collectors. When you were crossing a bridge or a tunnel, there was a little person that sat in there collecting your money. When technology came and did away with that, well, those people had to find a different way. And it's the same thing for us as actors. We have to start finding a different way. When the major Hollywood studios are not hiring us or there's not enough work for us, we have to pivot and find, okay, so then how do we find work? How do we create the work ourselves to get ourselves out there? Because at the end of the day, what you want to do is you want to work. I mean, yes, you'd love to get paid well for doing the work, but until that happens, you have to still be working. You have to still be doing something because it gets your name out there, because it hones in your skill, because it introduces you to other people and you never know who those other people might be. So yes, you've got to just get out there and work with whatever is out there that you can work with. And Mike, you found this niche for yourself, so go for it. Next year we might be hearing a lot about you. Who knows?
He's doing well. He's doing well in the niche, so he's doing well in it. Yeah, he's a good, tough negotiator. So,
there you go. You have to be that too.
Yeah. Yes. Good. Awesome. Do we have any more questions, James?
I mean, you and I might, but the audience doesn't. No, I mean, Iliana, it's so great to talk to you about this stuff, and I also really appreciate you talking about the places that are the things that you want to be doing, but you haven't yet found that, because in the midst of having places where you're kicking the can down the road, you're still working, right? So you haven't let that derail you, and that's, I think that's really important.
Well, one of the things that I used to tell my sales teams was that, because every month we had a forecast. So it was talking about what projects, what's coming in, what do you have in the pike, what are you working on, who are you trying to meet, who's moving that's going to need furniture. So you have to, I used to say you had to have you have a funnel, and the funnel is this big. But what happens to a funnel? It goes like this, and then see how it narrows down here, and then that's what you end up with. So you better fill that funnel with a lot of things, because you're going to lose this project because they chose someone else. You're going to lose that project because they decided to go with the person that they've already worked with. And there's a lot of different things that you're going to lose the project to. And it's the same for us. You're going to lose because you were too tall, you were too thin, the casting director had a better relationship with someone else. That person just gave a better audition. That person was a better fit for what they were looking for. Maybe you look too much like the star of the show, and that's a conflict. So there's so many reasons where you will lose something that you put in that big funnel. And then it comes down to only a few things. So that's why you have to fill the funnel. So you have to be working on a lot of things.
Okay, that is such great advice,
It's
and
such great advice.
and you put it so simply. You have to fill the funnel. It's like, right, like you have to keep on thinking of what, how can I expand the reach? How can I bring in more people? How can I look at more
And
valid? Val,
it's
go
so
ahead.
much, yeah, and so it's so much better when you're like when you're doing all those things, filling the funnel. So when something doesn't happen, it's not like you're spending a lot of time in misery over that thing not happening, because you're busy filling your funnel. You're busy like, oh, I didn't get that part, but I had this 5 auditions. I reached out to these 10 producers. I did this reading. I did this film festival, and I'm following up on that. When I have a lot coming in, I don't have so much time to focus on the no's.
However, there is a trap that you can fall into that you have to be careful about. And
Okay.
that is that then you just start, you're throwing all these things up against the wall, but you're not really focusing on anything.
Right.
So you have to really be mindful of, you're not just throwing ideas all over the place and then not following through. It's kind of like what we talked about before about following through when you meet someone. So you can go to an event and you can say, wow, I met 50 people. Well, what good is it if you didn't end up reaching out to any of them?
Yeah.
And you didn't follow up with any of them, and you didn't check in about, hey, I just saw that you did, you won an award at the blah, blah, blah film festival. Congratulations. I missed the festival, but I would love to catch it. Where else is it going to be playing? So you have to do all of that follow up. And so it's very time consuming, and it requires very strategic and focused and laser focused planning. And again, that's our job.
Yeah.
That was so good. Absolutely. We're not throwing shit against the wall and seeing what sticks.
Right.
We're really
You have to
very
be
clearly
mindful,
about the
right? You have to
things we're
be,
putting into our funnel. But I also think it's just good, when you are busy moving forward, so every asset has a liability, right? Like,
yes.
I'm a great doer, but sometimes I'm doing so quickly, I'm not paying attention to, the follow through. So I understand that,
And you also have to be careful about picking and choosing. Because I
Yes.
have a friend who I met actually at a film festival, and she and I are friends now, but we met at a film festival, and she's a producer, an indie producer. And I have been on her recently because she has this project that's her project that she really wants to do.
Mhm.
And I tell her, uh, what did you say you were doing today? Oh, because so and so, they want me to market their this and they want me to do it. And I said, and how does that help your project again? And so she loves it because I'm like her accountability buddy, that I kind of remind her that she's too busy doing this for this project and that for, and they're all for other people's projects. And it's not to say that you can't help other people. Of course you should. But let's not forget that you've got your project. And if you keep putting your project on the back burner, everybody else's project is getting done and you're helping them succeed with their projects and you're doing nothing with yours. So
I
either devote X amount of time a week that is devoted to that and only that. But again, you have to find how to work it for you. Some people that system doesn't work. They have to find some other way of doing it. But whatever it is, figure it out. Find what works for you to put that project as a priority. Because guess what? 10 years from now, we'll be talking about that project that you still haven't done.
Yep.
But meanwhile, you helped everybody else do theirs.
Exactly.
I love that you brought up accountability partner. Um,
Oh, yeah, I have two.
that's great. That's great because we can't do it alone. This is that other thing is that we're told by the industry that it's all on us, that we're alone, and that we're solopreneurs, and we're in isolation from each other, which is the antithesis of what it is to be in an ensemble,
Mhm.
right? It's the opposite of being an actor in a stage play where you're in a community and you're creating something together. And I think that you're absolutely right that the accountability partner puts us back into community, right? Where we're actually, there is somebody in front of us who's looking at us going, I don't know why you're focusing on that because you have this big, beautiful thing waiting to come out of you. Um, and it also goes back to what you said earlier about choosing your day job carefully so that whatever that other job is you're doing doesn't take you away from developing this career,
Yeah.
and you actually think consciously about like, well, how is this taking me in the direction I want to go in? Um,
Yeah,
so
make it
so
a tool. Make that day job a tool that helps you, whether it's you're working for a writer or a producer or a director or in a production company or something. Maybe you're working for a film festival, whatever it is, but something that's related if you can. If you can. I mean, I certainly didn't. And that's why I say I wish I had, because I feel like, well, maybe, then today when I say, oh yeah, my friends are coming over for dinner. Yeah, those friends would have been Ron Howard and, Marty and because who knows if I had taken this career in a different, but I also, had a very different start. For me, it started very late in life. But again, if I had been working in that industry, maybe it would have started earlier. Who knows? We don't know. And I'm not one to look back and say, oh, but what if, oh, and and regrets. I don't have regrets because I'm the tools that I gained, I'm using them, I'm finding a way to use them, and they're working to my benefit. I bring something different to the table because I come from a very different background. I don't come from the creative background, but I use those skills as best I can to move the needle forward for myself.
mm, that's beautiful.
That is great. The
Yeah.
skills, the best you have to move the needle forward, like the
Yeah.
best you can. Yeah, that's really great. So, it reminds me of that thing. We already have everything we need, right? We just have to look at what we have because a lot of times we have the thing, but we're out here trying to get the thing, right? And whereas
Yeah.
like, it's right here in front of you, Valerie. And so,
Well,
yeah.
yeah, it's like with the people, with the connections. So you're out there going, oh, I need to network, I need to network. And it's like, well, hold on a minute. Let's look at the people that you've already networked with and let's cultivate those, because what's the point of meeting them and sending one communication and then you let the ball drop.
Yeah.
Let's see. And I used to do that with my sales team and they hated it because I used to say, you have 300 customers, you can't service 300. So let's really look at your list and figure out who are the ones that really get the product and that could really use the product and have a need for it. And then, they're going to be customers that already have the product and you're just maintaining that customer. Then they're going to be customers that are brand new because they have a new building and you're approaching them for the first time. But for the most part, there's a base. What is your base customer
Yeah.
on your account list? And it's the same thing for us. It's not an account list, so maybe it's a network list, a collaboration list. I don't know what you want to call it. You call it what you want. But you have to look at that list because you're out there busy, like you said, Valerie, like this. Oh, wait, what do I need? Well, what you need may be already in your phone book. So
Yeah.
take a look at your phone book, at your Rolodex, your virtual Rolodex, your digital Rolodex. The people might already
Yeah.
be there.
Some of them don't know what a Rolodex
Right,
is.
that's why I had to, it's this little thing on wheels and do-do-do-do-do-do. It's what you have on your phone, but now it's do-do-do-do-do-do.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
so,
Yes.
so Ileana, if you were imagining or dreaming where you would like to be 5 years from now, what would that look like?
It wouldn't look that different from what I have right now, with the exception of the level of project. So I could see myself as a series regular on a drama shot in New York City, where I play the mom, and she's this badass mom who's, had some not so great things happen, but she's had to overcome them, and she's got maybe some sinister characters that she has to deal with. Or maybe it's a sitcom, kind of like a Seinfeld kind of sitcom. And then in between my recording of, during my hiatus, I get to do little plays, I get to produce plays, I get to do lots of parties because I love hosting, so I get to host lots of parties. And when you get to host parties and then it's about your industry, it's even better. So yeah, so it's really not that different. It's just it's the same as what I'm doing, but at a different level, on a different notch. So say, okay, so if you're a co-star, guest star now, so in 5 years you really want to be the series regular. And you want to be producing some really great things, something that, oh, the public decided to produce that play that I wrote, or the public decided to hire me to do that role. Yeah.
Good. May
So just
may it
doing
come to be.
more of the
That's
same,
awesome.
just at a higher level.
Awesome.
Yes. Awesome. Well, this has been an amazing conversation. This will go down in history. We've had some great podcasts, James. I just have to say,
You
Yes,
guys have, yes, you
we've
have.
had some really good guests.
yep.
Yeah.
And we are blessed with your presence, Iliana. Thank
So
you.
Thank you. Well, I am blessed to have been asked to be part of this, so thank you.
Yeah, I made my OG list and you were on it, girl. So
Oh,
I got to
thank
get
you.
this girl in here to talk to us because you're such a business-minded person naturally, that not all of my actors that I've worked with over the years have been that way. And,
Mhm.
you really stick out as someone that was really understood, like, oh, I have to grow a network and so I just love hearing everything that you're doing. It's so exciting.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you
Here's
so
to all of
much.
us continuing to do the work that we want to do.
Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I hope to see you soon. We should have
You
dinner.
will, you will.
All right. All right. Well,
Thanks
thank you so
again.
much. We really appreciate you being on here. And we'll see you guys all for our next recording next month. And we have a good guest already lined up for that. And we will see you soon. Thank you so much, Ileana. Thank you,
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Iliana.
James.
Nice to see you.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.